Happy Hearts and Hooves Day, every pony! To celebrate the occasion, I want to tell you a story of something that happened 10 years ago. For those who don't know, The Perfect Pair is the 13th episode of the 7th season of MLP FiM, which expatiates the backstory of the romance between Pear Butter and Bright Macintosh, the deceased parents of Big Mac, Applejack, and Apple Bloom. Pear Butter and Bright Macintosh were a young couple madly in love, but they each came from a family that despised the other. So, the pair opted to have a secret wedding on some bordering land between their farms, with only their very closest friends from town and an officiant as witnesses. But what if I told you that Hasbro thought one of the most crucial moments in this love story was too mature for My Little Pony, and asked their animation studio to remove it? About 8 months prior to the release of the episode, DHX Media had just finished producing the animatic and sent it off to Hasbro for review. As was typical for the production process, Hasbro gave their constructive feedback. For example, in this scene, the animators originally had the viewport motion reversed, panning away from Sweet Apple Acres and making for an awkward transition to the apple orchard. Also, it originally appeared as though Goldie Delicious had become paralyzed after falling off her trash mountain due to the lack of movement in the animation. It's always good to have a fresh perspective on art to improve the little details. However, when it came to the review of scene 284, the pinnacle of emotion in the story, Hasbro had this to say. Can we shorten this kiss down to a quick peck? It lingers a bit and then hits a more mature note when Buttercup says,
"Doesn't that feel nice?"
Would love to shorten the kiss and make her comment more about their nuzzling and realizing they are now pony and wife, and less about how the kiss made her feel.
But why?
The most likely explanation for this line of reasoning is that it was thought there is an overlap in romance and sexuality, so it was deemed inappropriate for children, which doesn't really make sense considering that MLP FiM is chocked full of blatant sex jokes. Matilda and Crinky Doodle kissed passionately at their wedding in Season 5, so I'm not sure why it raises an issue only when ponies do it. Just imagine how you would feel if someone came to your wedding and told you that you're not allowed to kiss on your special day because children may be watching? It doesn't make sense, and it almost feels like a residual echo of historic prudish culture, but unfortunately there's not really a more sensible rationale for Hasbro's complaint. Now, thankfully, DHX stood their ground on this point. We understand that this is a more mature sentiment, but we think it's sweet, and since they are adults who just got married, we think it would undercut the emotional moment to reduce it to just a quick peck. Can we convince you to leave it as is? As far as I'm aware, Hasbro made no further comment, and they didn't mention anything about it in the review of the final animation when that was completed either. And so, scene 284 survived intact to the release of the episode, complete with all the emotion and feeling it was originally intended to have. Or did it? If we carefully examine the wording, Hasbro implies that Pear Butter said the line, "Doesn't that feel nice?" after kissing Bright Mac, but in the finished episode, she says it before. Now, this could simply be lazy wording and not an actual discrepancy, but if Hasbro meant what they said literally, that implies the existence of an earlier version of the animatic. The animatic file for scene 284 is dated October 21st, 2016, 18 days after the animatic review, meaning we don't have the pre-revised version to prove it one way or the other. No one besides DHX Media and Hasbro has ever seen it. All we know is that Hasbro asked to reduce the duration of the kiss, and that in the final animation, Pear Butter gives Bright Mac only a brief, impetuous smooch, although he does return it with one more passionate. So there's two possibilities I see here. Is this how DHX Media originally wanted this scene to look? Or did Hasbro overrule? And could this be some sort of middle ground between Hasbro's demands and a version of this scene with more emotional depth that never saw the light of day? There is no later mention of this scene in the records, so I guess we'll never know. Just joking. If we can't find the answer by looking ahead, we have to try to go back, way back, to the storyboard. The earliest version of the storyboard dates to August 2016. In this early draft, we were able to see exactly what DHX envisioned for this episode, as the panels were all created before the approval process. So here's exactly what we see for scene 284. Pear Butter leans in to kiss, but she doesn't withdraw immediately like in the final animation. She holds, waiting for Bright Mac to return the gesture. They sigh as they pull away, gazing into one another's eyes, before Pear Butter finally says,
Well, doesn't that feel nice?
So it appears this moment did get somewhat nerfed, although we can see that DHX didn't fully follow Hasbro's instructions either, and didn't completely undercut the romantic vibe. After this point, the storyboard roughly follows the same path as the final version, up until Grandpair asks his daughter to choose between being an apple or a pear. In the animation, when Pear Butter chooses the apple family, Grandpair shouts, "Fine!" and hurries away in rash anger. But in the storyboard, he hesitates when he sees that he made his daughter cry. Pear Butter raises a tentative hoof toward him, pleading him not to go. And for just a moment, Grandpair pauses and contemplates whether a frivolous family feud is really worth leaving his own daughter behind, wondering if this is a choice he'll regret later on. But his pride gets the better of him, and even Granny Smith is shocked to see him ultimately decide to abandon his girl anyway. The storyboard gives us 2 additional scenes which would have slightly strengthened the sentiment of Granny Smith's acceptance of her daughter-in-law into the family, but they were removed to keep the storyline tight and to leave the viewers with a stronger impression. Granny Smith lifts Pear Butter's chin and guides her away along with Bright Mac, and an overhead shot shows Grandpair and the Apple family walking their separate ways. On that point, let's talk about some other interesting moments that were cut from the episode. Scene 126, or plainly described, Bright Mac checking Pear Butter out. While racing Burnt Oak, Bright Mac notices Pear Butter pulling weeds and gets,
distracted, if you know what I mean.
He definitely likes what he sees. Just look at the expression on his face. Priceless! Pear Butter has a similar deleted scene. Did you ever think it was a little strange that Grandpair told her she was making googly eyes at Bright Mac following a scene where she doesn't do specifically that, but lets out a coy giggle instead? That's because in scene 145, she originally let Grandpair walk ahead and lingered behind, locking eyes with Bright Mac until Grandpair realized what was happening. There's another thing that I've actually never heard anyone else talk about before, but I bet you didn't know that Pear Butter's love song to Bright Mac was trimmed down and was originally supposed to be longer.
And you should not blame me too if I can't help falling in love with you. And even if the world tells us it's wrong, you're in my head like a catchy song. You're in my head like a catchy song.
In other draft versions, a percussion set is in the mix, and even Bright Macintosh has lyrics, giving the song a stronger country rock vibe. Perhaps the most bizarre mystery of this entire episode is that William Shatner at one point recorded singing vocals for Grandpair in the song.
We're far apart in every way, but you're the best part of my day.
This is very strange in the first place, since it's a love song for Pear Butter and Bright Mac, but besides that, it would be very out of character for him considering how upset he was at his daughter for her choice of cult friend. Maybe she was practicing upstairs in her bedroom too much and the catchy song got stuck in Grandpair's head too, and he just couldn't help but sing it. I want to hear your craziest theories on why Grandpair had a part in this song, so let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Ultimately though, letting Pear Butter play the guitar solo with only a cello subtly supporting in the undertone and allowing her to finish the lyrics in a raw expression of love matched the vibe the episode was going for better than any of the alternatives. I hope you enjoyed learning about these cute moments that didn't make it into the episode. Even without them, The Perfect Pair is one of the sweetest episodes in MLP FiM, and I'm still impressed by the effort DHX Media and Hasbro put into producing such a touching story. I get the impression that the taboos toward romance that might have influenced Hasbro to prune it are a cultural effect more pronounced in North America, and personally, I think it's something that we'll eventually grow out of. The bottom line is, romance isn't inappropriate. It's a good thing, and it's possibly the prettiest part of nature. So just let the 2 adorable ponies enjoy each other, and don't be a grandpair. Stay savvy, folks, and I'll see y'all next time. Bro hoof.